Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
And now, for the next 40 minutes, David Icke of DavidIcke.com, who needs no introduction, exposing the globalists for more than 20 years, international best-selling author, former head of the Green Party, till he woke up to their communist operations for the globalists in England, BBC presenter, championship goalie, and so many other things. David Icke, good to have you on with us.
Cheers, Alex. And I'm a bit closer to you this time. I'm in New York. It's pouring with rain, but I'm speaking here at the weekend, and first time I've spoken in New York, and it's going to be great, I think. And what you mentioned there about the Green Party is it's very important to my life to have had that experience with the Green Party, to see it from the inside and to see politics from the inside, where you realize that it doesn't matter what the name is on the door or what the color is of the rosette. There's a blueprint, not just a blueprint in how the parties work, but a blueprint in the mind of politicians, and whether they're green, blue, pink, or whatever, they think and perceive in the same way. And the Green Party is claiming to be different. It's just another blueprint party like all the rest, using the environment to justify what the conspiracy wants to justify, which is centralization of control in every area of our lives. And, of course, the environmental thing is giving them the excuse to go right down into the fine detail of our lives. And so politics is not the way out of here. Exposing politics en masse, whatever the party, is the way out of here.
Absolutely, David. And looking at this whole situation, as the globalists have to emerge, as they have to unveil that, oh, yes, there is going to be a collapse and the troops are training all over the world. It's the same continuity of agenda to suppress you. And, oh, yes, you know, the population is going sterile. And, oh, yes, bisphenol A is sterilizing you in the plastics. And, yes, we are going to have a global carbon tax. And, you know, they've denied it. And as you've said for 20 years, there'll be a point where their system has to emerge, and that is now happening. And this is a critical time for the global controllers and for free humanity.
Yes, it is. The point has arrived where they can't hide it anymore. I mean, if you're manipulating something below the surface because you want to keep it secret, because you want to get it as far down the road as you can before people are alerted to it, there still comes a point where if you want to make society change in its fundamental structure, you have to hit the surface with that. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And we're there now. And it is a time of great opportunity as well as great challenge, because, you know, people often have to see something before they'll accept that it exists. In fact, most people do. And you can pull more and more people into understanding by explaining, as has been happening for so many years now, this is the game, this is how it's played, this is where they want to go. But when people actually see it and it starts impacting upon their lives, then there's more and more and more people are actually going to see that the world is not like they thought it was. And that's a great opportunity, because we are at a fork in the road. And, you know, you mentioning earlier how people can support what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is a time when no backsides need to be on any fences. This is a time when we're deciding, are we going to be acquiescent and lay down and in a bar-coded mob be controlled for the rest of our lives in ways that would make George Orwell wince? Or are we going to take this point, enough, line in the sand, here and no further? And that means not being on the sidelines anymore, not being on the other side of the road shouting even boo-hoo, it's terrible what you're doing, but actually getting across the road and getting involved. You know, I've been talking to Luke from We Are Change New York, doing a little video with him this afternoon here, and we were talking about this. And what people like him are doing is putting microphones in front of people. He was showing me clips that he did with Tony Blair and Jacob Rothschild. And when you see, Alex, these people, these all-powerful people, when they actually get confronted by people who are not in awe of them, not frightened of them, and are willing to ask the questions that the pathetic mainstream are not willing to ask, these people fall apart. You know, they don't know what to say. They're lost. And, you know, if someone like Blair comes to New York and he gets that done to him, and then he goes off to L.A. and someone else is there doing it to him, and there's no escape, there's no hiding place, then we start to take the game to the manipulators instead of standing on the other side of the street waiting for the next move by the manipulators.
Okay, I want to stop you right there, because so many people I interview don't understand that the globalists are just people too, and they're not invincible, and history shows we can have a new renaissance of liberty and freedom. I mean, the choice is no choice at all. It's total slavery. And I'm going to try to sit back, David, and give you the floor, because everything you say is so thought-provoking that I'm constantly adding and interjecting and backing up what you're saying. So I'm going to have you roll for about 20 minutes before I even interrupt you. And the only way I can do that is I'm going to get up out of this chair, I'm going to walk into the control room and watch you like I'm a viewer. It's the only way I can control myself for 20 minutes straight. And then I'll come back for the next 20 minutes with you. Maybe I can even twist your arm to sting a little bit more, because it's always so uplifting to hear you. But I have had the experience, and I want to say this, and I want you to speak about it. I have had the experience as somebody 17 years ago who was in college, and they were telling me that world government was good, my guns were bad, my Second Amendment was bad, that white people were bad, and you know, all of this stuff to create this guilt. And then I would turn on CNN and they would say, crazy people say there's a world government. Crazy people say we want their guns. Crazy people say all of this. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I'm being brainwashed about this at one level, but then they say it doesn't exist here. And I had family, like my cousin who was in the Model United Nations, because they take all the top students in public school and put them in that. He got out of it and said, yeah, it's all world government. I got on air 15 years ago just trying. I couldn't get on local radio. I was interning. They said, you got to wait 10 years before you even get on the air. I went and did an Access TV show. It instantly made news. It instantly had, it came out in the ratings 1 year into Access TV as being #1 in the time slot on cable in Austin. I got a once-a-week radio show, top ratings. Then a weekday show, top ratings on a top FM in town, talk radio. I then became syndicated. I never submitted. I never was censored. I turned down the payoff offers. I did it all. And I have reached, just in the last 2 years, 200 million people on YouTube and Google for free with our free videos. I have gotten all the international media to attack me and say I'm the ultimate, devil and so dangerous. I have, again, thanks to listener support, had a huge effect and exactly the experience you talk about. Whenever I stand up to tyranny, we knock them down. Every time I go to the legislature, I catch bribery and corruption news. Every time we get off our knees, as your new book's title is, Humankind Get Off Your Knees, and every time I get off my knees, I have nothing but success, and that's the secret of the globalists. They teach you you're powerless, you have no power. They try to confuse people with false paradigms because they're scared to death. They know how powerful humanity is. They know that liberty and the free market and everything that's basic is so much better than their tyranny, and they try to make us think resistance is futile, we will be assimilated, but that is a lie. And I want you to talk about compartmentalization, how the police, the military, all of them are being used by this. People think they're part of the power structure. They're not. You have the floor. First, let me ask you, will you stay 10 minutes with us into the next hour, David?
Yeah, that'd be fun, Alex, yeah.
Okay, because this is commercial-free today. I am going to get up out of my chair to control myself, and I'm going to go in there 20, 30 minutes, and I'm going to listen to David Icke today give our listeners and viewers a speech. Not an interview, but a speech. In fact, you got 30 minutes, David, and I'm going to come back and do another 20 minutes with you on the other side. God bless you. David Icke, ladies and gentlemen, on how we're winning and how we're going to win and how the false reality is being lifted, the curtain is being lifted, and we are going to win. Resistance is victory. David Icke.
Well, thanks, Alex. First of all, I would say that there has to be a fundamental change in the dynamics and the understanding of where the power lies. we keep talking about the fact that the structure of society is built on pyramids and pyramidal power, with the few at the top dictating to the rest of the pyramid. But what tends to happen is we look at the top of the pyramid for the power in the pyramid, but that ain't where the power is. The real power in the pyramid is at the base. That's what's holding the capstone, the apparent point of power, where it is. And what they've done is done a massive mind game upon the human consciousness and persuade us that they have the power, that the dark suits and the famous people and the people with letters after their name and names before their name, president, prime ministers, head of the World Bank, that this is where the power is. They have the power, but they don't. What this whole game is about is getting the mass of the people persuaded that that's where the power lies. And so we look at them in awe, we think they're all powerful, there's nothing we can do because we're just Joe Public and we have no power. So we are giving our power away by the perception that we don't have it, but they do. It's all a mind game. And then you look at the pyramid structure, and you have the mass of the pyramid at the bottom, i.e. the mass of humanity, holding the elite up there. What are we doing? And I had a friend years ago. He was a British comedian. His name was Larry Grayson. And he died, and I went to his memorial service at Covent Garden in London. And another comedian told a story that Larry Grayson had told him about something that happened to him. And I listened to it, and I thought, that is so profound. Larry Grayson told him this story, that he was in a show in the 1950s or something on the old music hall circuit in Britain. And it was an all-male show, and there was one woman in it, and that was Larry Grayson, dressed up as Britannia in the last scene. The last scene of this show, all the men came on dressed as sailors, and they formed a pyramid on the stage. And they were singing Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves, all that bloody nonsense. Anyway, then Larry Grayson would come on, dressed as Britannia with the helmet and the sword and the shield, and he would get manhandled up the top of this pyramid for the big finish at the end of the show, with him at the capstone of the pyramid. And on this particular night, he said, things had been going rather well, but then he said he noticed that the sailor in the left-hand corner of the pyramid had got rather a cough. And this cough got worse and worse and worse, and this sailor couldn't hold in the pyramid anymore and staggered forward. What then happened was the pyramid collapsed, and Larry Grayson, symbolic of this global elite at the peak of these pyramids, ended up in someone's lap in the second row. And so we have to, first of all, re-evaluate and re-understand where the point of power is in this world. There are 7 billion people being manipulated. There is a relative handful doing the manipulating in full knowledge of what they are doing. So much so that to impose their will, they have to engage and employ people from the target population, called people in uniform and dark suit administrators, to enforce and administer into being the structure of control that they are pressing forward. So the target population even has to supply the enforcers and the administrators of this structure on the target population. That's what we're talking about in terms of numbers. So first of all, the people have the power. We have allowed ourselves to be persuaded that we don't, and therefore every day we give our power away to the few, thinking that's where the power lies.